Hi guys, SKETI here, welcome back to a new tutorial. This time we're going to look at 5 more ways to become a better music producer. If it's a hobby or a career, just long term, how to get you making better music for longer. So let's get to it. Number 1. So we're going to look at stop comparing your success to others. Now when you do anything, whether it's music, art, whatever job or hobby it is, your journey in that is your own journey, it's no one else's. So I like to think, you might have heard thinking about your life as a book, and each chapter is each different stage of your life. Now someone else will be on a completely different chapter in their life to you, so don't compare where you're at in your journey to someone else's, because all that's going to cause is either resentment towards the other person, that you feel like, oh well, they're way more successful than me and I'm not, so woe is me, and then you start to resent them, and again you start to pull yourself down. So focus more on what you're doing, and that your journey is your own journey, and as long as you keep learning and trying to make more music, or whatever career path it is really, because obviously this is not just about music, it can be anything, but obviously I focus more on music producers, the field that I work in. Your journey is your journey, so focus on what you're doing. Obviously look at other people's work, but more for inspiration, which we'll get onto in a bit. But yeah, you need to focus on your path and where you're going with what you're doing. Anyway, number 2, know when to walk away from a tune that you're making. This is a big one, because I actually talk to a lot of different producers about this, and when they get really frustrated, and this is something that I've been really frustrated, where you want to get this tune, this idea that you had that you really liked, but then you get to this point, to a point in the tune where you're just like, I don't know where else to go with it, and you're just not feeling it anymore, and all you're doing is getting more frustrated with it, and then you start to get angry that it's not going the way that you want it to. So you've got to learn when to walk away from a tune. If you ever get to that point where you're starting to feel frustrated and angry, now there are some levels where it can be like a little bit frustrating, but there's that motivation to keep going. So if it's like more of a laziness thing, keep going on with the tune. But if it's more like I don't know what else to do with this tune, it's just driving me crazy, walk away from it. And that can be in a way where you just go and listen to other people's music, go and play an instrument, go and do something that you enjoy if it's something different than music, or just start a different tune. And then what might happen is, just doing all of those other things, you'll come back and go, oh, now I can work on it again. And it's always good to sort of come back with a fresh mind, just so you can start working and find out where you can go with that tune in a better way longer, rather than just getting so frustrated that you don't know what you're doing and you just get so angry with it that you just don't want to make music anymore. So it's always good to learn when to walk away. So number 3, get inspired, and I sort of link this in points 1 and 2, but get inspired by other people's music and work. It doesn't just have to be music. Things that inspire you, it could be art, it could be movies, it could be going outside, going to the park, it could be any kind of sport, something that inspires you. Even surrounding yourself with people that you have a lot of laughs with, or the conversation is really inspirational, because that's going to lead on to you making better music as well. Because if you're isolated all the time, and you're not talking to anyone, or you're not listening to anything, or any sort of external influences, it's very hard to be creative in isolation. Sorry. So what you need to do is get inspired by other things, and if that's socialising with people, having great conversations, other music producers that you look up to, having a conversation with them if they're free to talk to you, all that kind of stuff will help you produce better music in the long run. And it can start to sort of push away that negativity and self-doubt of that you're not able to do stuff, and so on and so forth. So if you can start really getting inspired by other people's work, or things that you like doing, or conversations that you have with people, that's really going to start to snowball into making better music. So point 4 is learn when to take criticism and when not to take criticism, because it doesn't matter how good you are at music, you're always going to be learning. Like I've been doing this for 23 years, but I'm still learning all the time, watching YouTube tutorials, listening to other people's music, playing with other musicians. I'm always learning new techniques, tips and tricks. But what I still get is criticism on my tunes. So if I send it to a producer that I'm a really big fan of, just to see what their take is on it, and if they give me some critique that's constructive, I go away and have a think about what I could do to improve it. But they're from producers that I would look up to and really respect their work. Now, not to sound like it's an elitist kind of thing, but if some just random person comes up to you and says, well, that sounds terrible, I don't like that, then you need to sort of then decide when it's good to take criticism and when not to take criticism. Because if you take criticism from everyone, you will start to change your music to what everyone else wants it to sound like, instead of what you want it to sound like. Now this is where you need to find the fine line between constructive criticism and just subjective, well, I didn't like it because I didn't like it. So if it's like genuinely down to like, okay, the snare frequencies here could be changed, or this bass could be turned louder, that's more constructive criticism. But if it's like, I just don't like the sound of the song, then that's more subjective. So just try and define in your own self, when you're getting criticism, what kind of stuff you want to go with and what kind of stuff you just want to leave at the door because you've made a track that you like the sound of and you want to go with it. Now this is a very fine line, and this is where you really have to check your ego a lot of times, because people don't like to receive criticism. If they feel really proud of something that they've done and they want to share it with the world, and then they get critiqued on it, it's like, well, I made this, and this has happened to me all the way through my career. Even now I still struggle with this sort of problem where it's like, well, I really enjoyed what I make, but then it didn't have the same response to other people. You sort of then have to sort of check yourself and have that fine balance. But you always have to, when you're making music, your opinion does matter the most, but other people's opinions do matter as well. But you've got to have that fine balance, so learning when to take criticism, when to walk away from it. So, and the last point, number 5, is no one really cares about how you made the thing that you made. Because think of it this way, you're not just making music for other music producers, you're making music for people to listen to and enjoy, and the majority of those people are not music producers. Like the majority of people who watch movies, for example, aren't film producers. Like, I really enjoy lots of different kinds of movies, but I don't really understand how they're made or how some acting principle was applied or so on and so forth, but I still enjoy them or dislike them just because I dislike them. So, but I'm not thinking, oh well, how did they make that scene, or how did they do this kind of thing. Sometimes I think that level, but that's just more me being analytical. But when I'm just enjoying a film for enjoying a film's sake, is I'm not really thinking about it, I'm just enjoying it. And this is the same for music. The majority of the people that are going to listen to your music are just listeners. They don't really understand the techniques or know about it because they've got other things, they've got different hobbies, careers, so on and so forth. But so you're not making music just for other music producers. Now you are going to have those conversations where people are like, well, how did you make that snare, or how did you make that bass, and so on and so forth. But that's just like, you can have a conversation. But honestly, no one really cares about how you made a certain sound. So if it sounds good, just go with it. Don't be worrying, well, I have to use this technique and this technique. So if anyone asks me about it, it's like, well, this is how I did it. Because then that nullifies all samples. So services like Splice or Beatport Sounds or any of these sample pack websites, that just nullifies those services, that you should never ever use samples ever again because you didn't make it, you just used someone else's sound. But if it sounds good and you use it in a way that works for your track, then great, use it. Because like I say, 90% of people who are going to be listening to your tunes don't know how you made it and don't really care. All they care about is, does it sound good or does it not sound good? So just keep going with that. And obviously you'll have the producer conversations where some people are really intrigued on how did you make that sound, and again, you can have that conversation. And I openly admit to people when I have used samples from different services and say, well, I didn't make it, this was a sample, and they go, oh cool, where can I find it from? And then you can start having that conversation. But if I've made a sound and spent loads of time sound designing, then I can go through that conversation as well. So yeah, it's just remember what you're making is, does it sound good or does it not sound good? Because the majority of people don't care how you made it. So anyway guys, that's 5 more points on how to become a better music producer. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, leave a comment. Any questions that you've got, leave a comment, suggestions for future videos. Leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell as well so you see more of these videos more in the future. Share this around with your friends. Also, I live stream on Twitch most nights during the week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday. So you can check me out on there where we listen to other people's tunes. We've got a great community building, lots of fun people to talk to and lovely, respectful people as well. And I make music, play some bass, and we just have a good time, all surrounded by music. So anyway guys, I shall see you next time. Bye.
Everybody jump up, come on!